Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to the States. You've had a long weekend between us all. We've all been to Lana, other than Golly, who's probably just been in bed sleeping the entire weekend. But yeah, as mentioned, we've been to Atlanta. That was Am2 Pro in the gem of the UK of Blackpool. I'm here, joined by my partner in crime, my co-host Tommy, as well as BeanBag, who's a pro player. I'll
Well,
be friendly. He's a pro player for Rift. You actually finished third at the event, so you had a great event, and we'll talk about that later on. So Beanbag, first of all, just go ahead and introduce yourself. Just talk about your team, talk about how you got into competitive card, and all that good stuff.
all right, well, yeah, I'm Rift BeanBag. At is Rift underscore BeanBag if you want to follow. I team
Oh,
currently,
plug.
giving myself a shout out real quick. I team currently with Insight, or also known as Jamie, Detain or Jed, and Revolt or Mike. We're under Rift Gaming, obviously. They're a great org. Obviously, joined them about 2 weeks before I'm to pro. But how I first got into gaming, well, I played COD for 6 years. I started playing Modern Warfare 2. I didn't play competitive or anything, just fun, like sniping with friends and
Pump
stuff like
stop.
that. Yeah, pub stomping, all the fun Modern Warfare 2 stuff. And then it was around about Black Ops 2 where I first watched a competitive tournament, which was MLG Anaheim, I think. And as soon as I watched that, I just thought, I've got to start getting into this. It looks really, really fun. And from there, basically, I started playing more and more League play, Black Ops 2 at the time, obviously. And then on Ghost, found myself a couple of amateur teams, started scrimming a bit, and just went from there, really.
Right, okay, good stuff. So you mentioned about how the team formed roughly around 2 weeks before the actual event. How did that kind of come into fruition? Was it just pickups, or was it just like, oh, I want a team with Insight, I want a team with Detain, I want a team with Revolt? They seem like good players, and it just kind of meshed together like that.
Well, so I was on Serenity. Obviously,
Yeah.
after the first Anta Pro, we moved also to Serenity. I got dropped from them for not being able to attend a foreign event. So there was about 3 weeks where I was an FA, and I'd been looking at players like Detain because he was also an FA. Insight, whose team Decide finished third at the first Anta Pro, I think. So obviously knew that they were talented players that I could team with them, and so we decided to run some, but we were looking for one more and I played wages and things like that, just like not proper competitive, but with Revolt. And I really liked his attitude, so I obviously I thought he'd be a good tryout, and we scrimmed with him for a bit, played a couple of Gfinity tournaments, and we thought it was all going well, so we decided to pick Revolt up, and then obviously we're very glad that we did because he turned up at London.
Yeah, exactly. I know a lot of people looking at the team from the outside was kind of saying Revolt was the weak link. I mean,
Yeah,
if you look at the other three players in the team, including yourself, you all had like good, pretty consistent placings, and then Revolt was kind of the weak link, so to speak. But obviously, he turned up, he proved everyone wrong. So
definitely did. Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to be pretty happy about that. Coming into the actual event, realistically, I mean, obviously, everyone's going to say, oh, they want to place first, but realistically, what would you say would be like your your ideal placement? You know, if you was going into it realistically, what would you say would be like the placement for your team?
Well, we actually talked about this before, and I never set high hopes for myself for some
Right.
reason. I don't know why, but we were probably hoping for around a top eight placement. That's where a lot of people were seeding us, like into going into the event, maybe top eight, top 12, somewhere around that. So yeah, I personally, I was probably hoping for top eight, maybe top six, but to get top three was just amazing, and I'm so happy we did.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a little bit of a difference coming top eight to
It
top
was,
three.
yeah.
Uh, was it your first time at the Norbreck
It
event?
was, yes, yes.
Right. So let's
Oh,
talk
I had
about
okay.
heard
that.
about it. I'd heard about it, but
So obviously, there's a lot of good, bad, and ugly things about the Norbreck Castle Hotel, and especially in terms of like being an event. First time you went there was actually Tommy's first time as well, so I'm sure he can relate to this. What was the event like? First impressions on day one as you walked through the door?
so actually, I didn't expect from the outside it was massive, like the
Yeah.
whole event. I didn't expect it to be that big personally, but I got inside the hotel rooms. No, they weren't the best, but they were livable, I guess, for a day or two. But the actual event venue itself, it was really a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. Like the actual where main stage was and all the other stations, it was very big, and I thought it was actually really good to be honest because it wasn't too cramped, it wasn't too hot or anything. Like it gave people a lot of space to move around, and also when you're playing your games, like you could just quickly. It wasn't so far away that you had to like walk across the whole castle to go watch a different game. Like you could
Walk a
just be on
mile to
one.
play a game.
You could just walk around in this one venue, and you could see all the games happening. You could quickly switch it. It was good, in my opinion. The actual venue, hotel rooms obviously could be improved, but they were livable for a couple of days to be fair.
Right, okay, good stuff. I'm going to actually pass that question over to Tommy as well. What do you think? Because it was your first time getting here. Obviously, I kind of had the knowledge going into it.
I got
CTL 30
I got planted with a bunch of information from like you and
Who-
other people
who
saying,
planted that
"Oh, it's
information?
the worst place ever. Oh, it's been rated this on this and travel guide and everything." And then I got there and I was like, "Well, you know, it wasn't that bad. Come on, it wasn't that bad. I mean, the rooms had a TV in it. Not that I used it, but that's something. I mean, they could have had nothing in it, but yeah. I mean, the Norbrook is a very special place, should we say? There was a lot of activity going on there, should we say? I think what made it such a good event for me outside of the gaming and the kind of the actual event itself was just the fact that because everyone's in one place, it's so easy just to kind of socialize and get to know people and so on and so forth. And as you say, for my first kind of proper event, meeting everyone and everything, it was a really good chance and opportunity to do that because everyone was at the same place. It wasn't like someone was down the road, this team was down there, and so on and so forth. So from that aspect, it was pretty good. As BeanBag said, I thought the venue was of really adequate size. There was plenty of space, if not too much space, for games to go on and all sorts. So that was really good because it wasn't a really cramped environment. And just generally, it was a good weekend. Obviously, the production had a bit of hiccups, but apart from that, everything ran pretty smoothly. We actually, I think, finished ahead of time. So not really bad. And also considering there were 73 teams that turned out, one of the best like outgoings for compared to Call of Duty since like Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2. Not much more we can really ask for.
Right. Okay. And that's actually what I want to talk about is the schedule because BeanBag as a player, you kind of get to know the schedule a little bit more than someone like me and Tommy who are just there, just to be there for the sake of things. So talking about the schedule, how did that actually go? Did you feel as if the admin did a good job of making sure that no one was rating around 6-7 hours at a time for the next game? Does it feel as if it was like a constant flow, or was there some problems?
Okay, so at the second Enterprise, I thought it was a lot better than the first because going to the first one, it was kind of game starting like 2 hours late, schedule being a lot like long time behind. It ended up finishing, I think, way past when it was supposed to, seeing as the last Pro had a lot less teams. But this time around, I thought it was a lot better. Games rarely started over 30 minutes late, if at all. And to be honest, as you said, it finished earlier than it was supposed to, which gave people like me who had to go back on the Sunday and then go to school on the Monday a bit more time.
Oh, geez, really?
Yeah.
How far away did you live from the venue?
5-hour drive.
Oh.
Oh no! Yeah. What time did you leave the venue?
It was probably about 7. So we got back at home at about 1-ish,
Wow.
12-ish. So
Man, I respect that. If you had to go back to, I really respect that because I literally could not do that. I would just be like, no, I'm having the day off. Screw it.
To be honest, realistically though, you've got a flight lead because that means you didn't have to stay an extra night in the castle. So if anything, you've kind of like
if anyone's
got the better
watching
end of
that works at the Norbrook, Rage is just never gonna. Rage will be banished from the Norbrook. He'll have to like sleep outside in a tent.
I did hear there was some crazy stuff going down on Sunday night. Also, some of the players getting a bit drunk.
Yeah, Rage had a good night.
So moving
I saw
on.
a certain RKO.
That was actually that's another story completely because like I'm quite light, so everyone was like just carrying me around for the sake of it. So I had no idea it was coming. So like Trout was carrying me around like the whole venue. So like I was just like, oh, Seb's gonna do the same, but no, it was all a trap. But let's move away from that. Let's talk a little bit more about the actual layout because BeanBag, as you mentioned, you was at the last Pro. You finished second with Frag, so I'm sure you'd be happy with a third place, kind of keeping up the Pro reputation of being in the top 3. Obviously, you said the layout of the venue and the actual venue itself in comparison. Do you feel as the layout was better than before? Obviously, it was bigger. There was actually a venue on site, so you didn't have to get taxis to and from the actual venue. Do you prefer that, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say that the second Pro venue-wise was, in my opinion, a lot more convenient. As you said, you can just walk literally 2 minutes into the venue, so there's no problems with players being late or etc. But also like. Last time I went to the Pro, I kind of stayed in a hotel that no one else was in, which made like I stayed in a Premier Inn, but because I booked it quite late, it was one that no one else was in, so I didn't really have many people to socialize with apart from when I was at the event. But obviously, you're not at the event venue for the whole time, so it was kind of a bit boring in the evenings. But this time around, like I was with my teammates in my rooms or with friends that I made in the rooms, and it was a lot easier to just socialize with people and get along with people. And yeah, definitely.
Right, okay, that's good stuff. And obviously, when you wasn't competing, did you actually? I say this as if like there was actually a chance to, but did you have a chance to catch the stream, or was you kind of one of those people who's kind of caught up in the sense of just watching a blank screen as there was nothing on the stream?
Yeah, well, obviously, first day the stream was a bit iffy, going down a bit. even inside the venue, it wasn't actually on sometimes. So I didn't watch the stream much the first time. However, on the second day, it was obviously a lot better. Things were running smoother. And I did actually watch main stage on the stream a bit, like when I wasn't playing or when I wasn't in my room, just charging my phone and chilling with my teammates and stuff like that. I did watch a stream, yeah.
And of course, Tommy, you can kind of shed some more light. You actually did a video about it, but for those who didn't watch the video, just give us a little bit of a short breakdown of what actually happened with the stream issues. Because if I go there, I'll go on a rant for hours. And
So I really, in my video, I kind of called out the technician guy who kind of came at me afterwards, and we kind of sorted things out and so on and so forth. But realistically, the problem was the fact that from my understanding, after speaking with the technician guy, he kind of gave me a bit more like shed a bit more light on what actually happened. Basically, he was called in late to the job and didn't have all the parts he needed, what meant obviously everything was pushed back. We didn't get, I think, internet in the venue until Friday night. That meant all the Xboxes that hadn't even been pre-updated, what was a problem as well, needed to be updated. And then obviously all the wiring, the Ethernet cables and so on and so forth. I can only imagine the amount of wires that were going around the venue. They still had to be all done, and it meant the main stage, the actual connection and everything wasn't actually set up until the afternoon on the Saturday, because everything was obviously pushed back, what obviously meant the stream didn't start till around 3 p.m. Then the stream got up and running. I'm sure you guys probably saw if you did watch the stream when it first got up. But then the problem was, as always, there's always problems. The black magic on the PC for the producer actually went down. So it meant we had no basic capture card. The reason we're using the black magic, by the way, was because it was real time rather than using Elgato or whatever else. That went down, obviously. And then we got it back and running at I think 7 p.m. And then it was all good and we got things going. And then on the Sunday, we actually had no problems whatsoever. Went all the way pretty much through without any problems, what was really nice as well. But yeah, it was just one problem after another. But obviously, as you can imagine, every LAN has problems, but the problems we had at this LAN were just a little bit more significant, and it meant that things were pushed back. But as I stated at the start, none of the matches were delayed, really. Everything got going. All the other stations were pretty much set up when everyone came into the venue around 11 o'clock. So everything finished on time. I know it was probably not the greatest experience for the viewer from home, but in the venue, the players actually playing everything that actually matters. They actually all finished on time, so it meant that we weren't here at the early hours of the morning finishing off games and so on and so forth.
Right, okay, good stuff. And BeanBag, one thing I want to ask you is, in the event in whole, I believe I did the maths. You roughly played around 7 or 8 games. I probably missed a game there, but who was your hardest? Because obviously you played Vitality, you beat Vitality 2-0. I'm sure you're going to be very happy about that. You played Exertus, and that was last map. The first time you played them, the second time you played them, you wasn't quite as lucky to be in the last map. Of course, you played Epsilon as well. That was an incredibly close series as well. I think you took that to the 5th map as well. So obviously, looking back, what would you say was probably your highlight of the event in terms of who you played, and what was your toughest match?
There's actually quite a few close series we had. So we had a where we were 1-2-1 against, went last map as well. Obviously Exertus, as you said, went last map 5-5, and then we came out on top the first series. And Epsilon went last map 2. So I think the hardest one out of them 3 was probably the Epsilon games. Obviously, them winning the event, they were probably the best team. Well, they were the best team there. They've obviously got household names like Marky V, Rated, etc. on their team. So it was a very big challenge, but to take 2 maps off them and force them to the last map, which is probably the closest series they had all event, that felt quite good. Just unfortunate we couldn't really take the last map off them.
Right.
And highlight from them 3 series, probably the Epsilon games, as I'm pretty sure I think I dropped 2 40 bombs on both the hard points, so that felt good, or it might have been a 39 and a 40, but it always feels good when you drop a 40 bomb, especially on a team as prestigious as Epsilon.
I bet that gave you a bit of confidence.
Yeah, definitely.
I just wanted to pick up on something in the chat. Mitch R wanted to know, can you guys answer one question quickly? Do you think there'll be another Pro in Advanced Warfare? Not sure if I'm really meant to say this.
Be careful what you say, Tommy. No, before you say anything, just think about it, okay? Because I have a feeling I think I know what you're going to say.
Okay. This is like psychic or something.
Just 10
no. From my understanding, I mean, this has been tweeted out. I've seen it publicly tweeted out. Nothing is obviously official. Nothing is confirmed yet. But there will probably be another anti-pro event in Advanced Warfare. Where it'll be, who knows? They've obviously been tweeting out over the last couple of days for areas they can go. Some very bold places that people have been saying. I think that's probably because it's where they live. But I'd be very surprised if there wasn't another event before the end of Advanced Warfare. But as I say, nothing's yet confirmed, but there's stuff in the pipeline. So that answers that. And then what was your question raised? Like highlight of the weekend?
Yeah, for you as well, Tommy, because it was kind of like the first event you've actually been involved in, because you went to the Gfinity Open or something, but
yeah.
you was kind of there just as like a spectator. Here, you was actually here doing a job as a presenter. So, what was your highlight?
Okay, so I'll give you a highlight. I not got a clue. Probably the highlight was just probably meeting so many people. Obviously, as you say, like this is my first event I've kind of probably been involved with and been throughout the weekend. Gfinity, I was just there literally for the day, and I was just there as a spectator. I didn't really see anyone or anything. For me, it's probably meeting so many people. As I said, Norbreg is a great opportunity for socializing, getting to know people that you've seen over maybe a camera or you've spoken to on Twitter and so on and so forth. So it was really nice to kind of put a name to a person and actually see them in real life and so on and so forth, and just be a part of the production, even though it did go a bit tips up. But yeah, it was just a really good opportunity to be a part of.
Right. Okay. And of course, it's probably a little bit of a step in the door, so to speak, for you as well, because obviously it's your first time being involved in production, kind of what you're doing now, kind of what you're doing on YouTube, but in the live environment. So I'm sure that's going to be good. But bring it back to BeanBag. I want to talk about that Exertus games, because obviously I casted both of them, so I kind of know them, because I think I actually fell asleep during the Vitality game because I had no sleep. Long story, but I kind of know quite a bit about the 3-2 situation. Your hardpoint was very good throughout. I believe you won the majority of the hardpoint matches you
We
played.
dropped 2 hardpoint maps throughout the tournament. Yeah, that was by far our strongest game mode.
So obviously, just leading on to that, the fact that you won both the hardpoints against Exertus in the first time you played them in the winners bracket, and then you came to a search and destroy. What was map 5? I'm not going to talk about the map 3, but the map 5 search and destroy round 11. It was incredibly close.
It was. It's always scary
Them
being a
nerves.
5-5. It's always very scary being a 5-5. Your heart's pumping. You don't really know what to do. Like sometimes teams can break up from their usual game plan, their strategy that they've got going on, and it gets a bit hectic. But we just managed. Like we played it a bit slower than we normally would around. We just like took it methodically. We didn't rush into anything rash and like get first picked on or anything to put us in a down position. I think we got the first 2 picks. It was a 4v2. And then they traded one, so it was a 3v1, and from there our team just stuck together. And then I believe Desire could have made a play, but he was staring at the bomb carrier who was about to plant the bomb.
Yeah, I can remember that. That
We
was
were watching. I was just
that
like,
was confusing.
I'm like, is he gonna kill him? Is he? And then he just didn't kill him. And then whoever was on bomb just like left, and I was just like, oh no, this just spells like doom for them.
It was I could see why he made the play. Like he was obviously trying to wait for someone else to maybe run into his side so he could get an easy 2-piece, but the guy on the bomb, which was Revolt at the time, he said, "Oh, I've just seen him in purple." Obviously, like I don't know, out the corner of his screen or something when he was planting. He just managed to get a peek of him, so he got off the bomb really quickly, and then that forced Desire to get run, and then Detain just picked him up from the back. But the 5-5s are always scary, but when you win them, I've won a couple of them in my time in my 2 lands I've been, and it's just the best feeling ever, definitely by far.
I was just about to say, like, what's it like actually being in those situations? Because it was to play for the winners bracket, so you knew you was going up against Epsilon in the winners bracket. You knew if you lost that round, you would be knocked down to the losers bracket where you had to play against some other teams. So was it incredibly tense? Was you nervous?
It was also
was you
for the
sweating?
money, I believe, wasn't it? It was for top 3.
It's for top 3, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
guaranteed to be in the prize pool.
It was. Yeah, it was basically a £1,200 round if you wanna say that. But like obviously when that much money's on the line and that much is on the line, your team is very nervous. Your whole team's kind of silent throughout the round. You don't know what you're gonna do. Like you just someone's got to take charge. Someone's got to get everyone sorted, get everyone in a game plan. Obviously we managed to do that, and I guess we just clutched up at the final round really.
Yeah, so it was a good point to mention that it was for top 3, because I can just remember as soon as it was around 11, I pulled up the mini map and all I could see was just all 8 players standing still. So it's like that's how intense it was.
I believe Exertus players played it really, really slow too. So I think what we did, we went to the B bomb site on Solar, and the first round we had done it pretty aggressively, but this round we took it a bit slower. And then all at once, we all just, like, I think it was 3 of us pushed up straight through the bomb, and we managed to pick 2 of them off that were kind of caught off guard. They were just sitting there posting up with their ARs, but we managed to bait and switch them out. And so, yeah, I think we kind of outplayed them on that last round.
Right, okay. We're going to go for a quick break because I need some more tea because I'm a little bit rough still. Guys, make sure obviously you just stay here. We're going to have a 90-second commercial break, so make sure you check down below for all the important codes. Use the code STiKS for 5% off Scuff, and then same code for 10% off G Fuel. What's not to love? We'll see you in 90. Bye. That little nod at the end.
An easy run. It's not like the bigger teams got knocked out. You, if anything, caused the upsets, caused the bigger teams to go out. I mean, we started all the way back at you beat Omni, and then I think it was like Aware, followed by Vitality, and so on and so forth. Like, what was your kind of mentality going into all these games? Because it was just one like harder task after the other. So you must have really had to kind of keep yourself composed and so on.
Yeah, so at these lands, it's usually like if you got a high seed like we did, I think we got 9th seed or something like that.
Yeah.
So we thought going into the first series, obviously, we'll just use it as a series to build confidence off. So we were very, very confident going into the first couple series versus, I believe it was Procast White and Omni. We thought we could take them 2-0, obviously, quite quickly, quite confidently. So we just used them games, kind of got back into the LAN kind of feeling, got into shift of things, and we used them to build confidence off. And then our first proper challenge came when we played Aware in the winners bracket round 3 or 4.
It was the 1 sec. I've got the bracket up in front of me. I'm not gonna choke. I promise. I've got this. It was
definitely 4.
It was 4.
It was round 4. So we played these guys online. Obviously, I think that it was Aware Sunny B, who's quite well known. Aware Maple, who I've used to team with quite a lot before, and then there was Zero or Trey, another one of my really good friends in the gaming scene, and finally Damo, who I'd heard about before. We all know he's a good LAN player and stuff like that. So we were obviously confident going into a game. You can never really go into a game thinking that you're not really going to win it or that you don't know if you're going to win it, etc. But we knew it was going to be our first tough challenge, and we actually lost the first biolab half point by quite a bit. I think I went 28 and 39 or something. Did not have a good series. That kind of blew the confidence out of me. But we managed to bounce back in uplink pretty quickly. I believe I did quite well on that uplink personally. I think I hit a 30 bomb or something, and our team was getting quite hyped in the uplink. So that helped us build our confidence into the last S&D where we took it. So we won that series 2-1, and that gave us a very big confidence boost to go into day 2 where we played Vitality. Was it Vitality next?
Yep. So what was that like? Because obviously that was day 2. So what was it like knowing that you lost your first hardpoint, knowing that you was a good hardpoint team on the last game of the day, and then you was up against Vitality, who was going into it as the favourites? A lot of people are putting them in their top 2. Well, everyone pretty much put them in the top 2 prediction. Obviously, Josh, Petey, Watson, and Mycat. Mycat picking up for the team because Tommy was away with his girlfriend, I think, was the reason. But nevertheless, it was a slightly, you'd say, weaker because obviously Tommy wasn't there. But of course, Mycat is a great replacement, often considered to be one of the best players in Europe. So what was it like knowing that you have a night in front of you and then first thing you do when you wake up is walk downstairs and play Vitality?
Well, obviously it's not the best thing to think about.
Did you get a lot of sleep?
I can't say. I think I got about 5-6 hours sleep. My teammates.
That's not bad. I guess that's not bad considering.
Obviously, I think they probably got same or if even less sleep than us. So it's not like anyone was kind of had a sleep advantage or anyone was less tired, etc. Because everyone kind of went to bed late. But obviously, when you wake up, like it's going through your mind, and then you actually finally get to start playing it. You're in free for all practice, and then like hits you. You're actually playing arguably the best team in like going into it, and like everyone thinks they're going to win it, but you just got to try and push that out of your mind. And when you're playing, get a good strong start, especially to the first hill, and that really helps you build confidence throughout the series. And luckily, I think we got a pretty strong first hill, and then we just built confidence after that. And I think it was after the first rotation, we were up by like 30 points odd, so we thought we could have it. As the game went on, we knew we were getting closer and closer to winning, but obviously you got to keep the
nerves. We're gonna beat them.
Yeah, and then came down to last hill, we realised we're going to beat them, and it's just like that first map's such a relief because you've got the 1-0 advantage, and then they're probably a bit down because they don't expect to lose first map, obviously, and so you can just use that to build confidence, and they're a bit down, so you just capitalise on it and take second map.
Do you feel as if, coming into the game knowing that your underdogs could kind of like, you could use it to your advantage, knowing the fact that obviously you've got nothing to lose in the sense that everyone's watching Vitality, no one's really watching you, so you can just, kind of do your own thing and kind of zone out and pretend like you're not really in a LAN environment playing against Vitality? I
think that really did help. We were all my teammates, again, we were talking about this, like, there's not really much pressure on you if no one thinks you're going to win. So you can just go out, do your best, like give it a wild shot at it, and just hope you do win, which obviously worked for us because we did win. And especially, I think that did. So on a team wise, that happened to us, but on a player wise, I think Revolt had that quite a lot because obviously going to the event, as you said earlier, everyone thought he was going to be maybe the weakest link of our team. That maybe he was just an online player. His LAN placements hasn't been the best looking throughout the whole time he's been playing COD, but I think he really did a good job in turning up to the event, playing the same, if not better, as he does online, which really, really helped us out, as it means we didn't have to carry a player the whole event. So I think shout out to him as well for playing really well, especially in that Vitality series where he did turn up.
So, of course, coming from Vitality, then you head Exertus, who was playing well throughout the whole week, and a lot of people kind of put them in their top 3, top 4 situation. The team of Bance, Nathan, Desire, and Vortex, I think. So, obviously, some very, very highly skilled players. Obviously, Bance going into that team from the whole Serenity and Halley situation. Obviously, going into that, did you say that obviously the fact that you just beat Vitality 2-0 just gave you a massive confidence boost going into it, and obviously that kind of helped fuel your drive to beat Exertus 3-2?
That definitely did help, because obviously after you beat arguably the favourite to a tournament, you think you can go on and beat everyone. But as you said, the Exertus lineup, Vortex, Desire, Vance, and Nathan, they're a very, very talented lineup. I'm friends with all of them in the whole team, so it's kind of a grudge match. You know, everyone wants to win that match because you're friends, but at the same time you're biggest enemies in games. So
Yeah.
it's kind of for bragging rights. So we had that with Aware too. But yeah, after you beat Vitality like that, especially with a 2-0 sweep, like it wasn't. I mean, it was close, obviously, the series, but like it didn't go to last map or anything. So that gave us a massive, massive confidence boost, which probably did help us out a lot, seeing as Exertus had to beat Aware, and I think Exertus beat Infused, or no, they beat Excel. They beat Excel, so they didn't have as much of a confidence boost as us beating Vitality. So I think that did help, yeah.
Basically, would you say that you being so good in hardpoint was a significant factor this weekend? Because obviously, if you can get off to a good start and win that hard point, 9 times out of 10, is that something that really helped you guys? Could say if you lost that hard point to Vitality, potentially could we have seen a completely different outcome of your event?
Yeah, I actually strongly agree with that. I believe that obviously first map is probably the difference between thinking that you can take the series confidently and maybe being a bit down after first map. You've lost the first map, you're not really feeling too good after it. So to be a good hardpoint team, I think is a must for
especially
any.
with adding a second hardpoint in for the CTF.
Yes, especially with that, because there's no CTF anymore, so there's 2 hardpoints, which makes it twice as important to be good at. So obviously taking that first map gives you confidence booster, gives you the drive to take on the next games, the next S&Ds, the next uplinks, etc. And it does very much help you win the series.
Okay, awesome stuff. Right, a couple of questions from the chat. First one from Paddy. I'll open this out to pretty much everyone. Wants to know MVP from the event. Alex, go first.
Can we not go for me first?
Okay, we'll go BeanBag first.
I'll do 2 actually. I'll do 2. I'll do 1 from my team.
I think I know who you're going to say from your team, because I've got him as like my possible MVP as well. I was thinking about it during the game. I'm going to think about it a little bit more, but I'm probably going to agree with you with your MVP.
So I'll just start off with the whole event. I believe Rated was probably my personal MVP on Epsilon. He played extremely well throughout the whole event. I watched a couple of his games, and obviously when we played him, hitting constant 40 bombs, 30 bombs in uplink, and S&D was still a lot stronger than I expected it to be. So I think he'll probably have to be my personal MVP for the event. And from my team, I'd probably say Revolt, seeing as all of the online speculation about him, and he probably had a lot of pressure coming into the event to perform and do well, and I think he dealt with that really, really well and did perform well, and that's why I'd give him my MVP of our team.
Mine's probably Join. Again, I'll probably have to say Revolt. I can remember actually coming off that game where you won 3-2, and I can remember turning to, I think it was Stealth, and saying like Revolt's MVP by far. So I'm gonna have to say Revolt. Obviously, you usually expect the team will win it to be an MVP, but as you already mentioned, like he was coming into it with not a lot of people expecting him to do well. So the fact that he was able to compete and be basically a solid objective player for the team was somewhat what you needed and somewhat what shone through, especially in the objective game modes. But then again, I'll probably have to say Vortex. The only reason why I'm saying Vortex is because that 1v3 on you.
I do like that.
Sure.
That was such a good play, and I remember watching it just in disbelief they did it, because looking at the actual locations on the map, it didn't seem possible, and somehow he did it. I'm sure you probably like shut your eyes and get flashbacks
Let's
about
just say
it.
I may have banged the table with my fist after we lost that 1v3. Yeah.
How did we lose?
So Tommy, same question for you, MVP.
I mean, it's really annoying because obviously normally I would be on the viewership end and I'd actually be able to watch a lot of matches, but I don't know really. I mean, Bans from Exertus, that's just a star-studded player, but I feel like you've just got to give it to Epson because they were the outright best team there. I mean, obviously that was because a lot of big teams choked. Rated, I think, is a good shout. He played pretty well. I would probably stick with Rated, just to be safe. I mean, I don't want to kind of go out of my way, not knowing too much about how all the teams did. But anyway, moving on to a question from Mike from DeSoto. Basically wants to know, was out of expectation, was Vitality or Millennium's performance the biggest upset?
That's a good question actually, because obviously, what seed did Millennium get? Fourth or something, or third?
I think they had the third because Infuse had the fourth.
He had the third seed and he placed top 24.
Third seed and they placed top 24. I mean,
is that worse than Vitality placing 8th, knowing that they had the number 1 seed? Obviously, they had a fill in with Madcap, but still, number 1 seed going into it, lost yourselves, and then eventually, obviously, got knocked out for top 8.
I think the Vitality one is more of a shock to myself because going to the event,
you caused the upset.
I didn't really fear Millennium as much as I did Vitality. I thought Millennium was a not easily beatable team, but it was doable by far. And Vitality, you just thought they were on another level. Especially, I mean, they did lose their in-game leader in Tommy for a pickup, but Madcat is arguably the best or one of the best players in Europe at the time and even now. So that team did look extremely strong on paper, but I just think that maybe their loss of their in-game leader, Tommy, may have impacted them harder than everyone would have thought it would, because obviously they had no one making them important shot calls in game, and maybe the hype wasn't there or it was a bit quiet. So that might have been one of the reasons to their surprise placement. But I think Vitality is probably more of a shock than Millennium in my eyes.
Talking about surprise placements, I'm going to obviously say Millennium was obviously a shot. They have a lot of supports behind them because, you know, as soon as a French team, especially if they've got Gataga on them, they're instantly expected to be like God status. Especially in the French fans, you know, a lot of them like
all French while they were on.
Exactly.
There was no British.
I think he was telling that. It was like when they was playing, the stream jumped 1,500 viewers or something.
Yeah, we went up to like 4.5K, and then we just went all the way back down. It's just like, well, Millennium, can we give you a second life? It's just like, but yeah, they did well. I was gonna say they did well, but I really can't say it. I mean, top 24 when you had 73 teams there, knowing that you're the third seed coming into it, and kind of all the players on that roster have experience. I mean, if I'm honest, Carbon played pretty well. But just the main thing was they just, for whatever reason, were not on their A game and ultimately ended up crashing out. And now, obviously, we have the roster change of Mello leaving Millennium. So, with that being said, I'm going to try and throw this out in the open. Is there anyone that you think Millennium will pick up, or do you think more players will leave the roster? Is there anything you can kind of think that would happen to the roster?
Well, I'm not too familiar with the French scene, but obviously with Mello leaving, he was arguably one of their best players, in my opinion, of course. I played with Mello a bit before, and he was a very good player to play with. His English is quite good, so that helped us a lot. But I think, I'm not entirely sure if he's French, but Tony JS or something.
Tony JS, he's I believe he's a sub for the Hyper Games team.
He is. I've seen him a bit, like at Gfinity Lands, I'm pretty sure I saw him a bit, and he looked like a really, really strong player, so that could be a potential pickup for them. So maybe Tony JS, but otherwise I'm not too familiar with the French scene, so I'm not really sure what they'll do. Pick up maybe an English player even. I'm not too sure.
I'm basically in the same boat as BeanBag, as in, like, I don't know my French scene as much as I know my UK scene. I can't see people like Broken going over because he's too like branded with Vitality, so I still think he's probably going to try and make his own team. So maybe you see Mello join Broken and Vitality. But I think you have to look at this Hyper Games team. You have to look at the players such as Maxim, Riskin, and Tony JS, and some more of the French players around there, and kind of look at them, because they're not going to pick up nobody. They're Millennium. They're like one of the biggest organizations in France. Not just going to take a chance and pick up some random player. So they're probably going to have a look at the top teams like Hyper Games and like Vitality, although Vitality at the minute are in a weird situation. So, or at least the French team are. So it should be interesting to see who they do pick up. But again, it's literally anyone's.
It's a free
just throw a name out there, and there's a good chance that it's going to be them.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just gonna straight predict what's going to happen. I reckon
here we go.
Melon potentially will go to Hyper Games, and whoever gets dropped will go to Millennium.
Yeah, I like that show.
Potentially, but I mean, as I say, it's the case where you've got so many big names on the team already that whoever's filling Melo's spot, it's a big spot to fill. So I mean, I don't know what will happen in terms of the Gfinity Pro League. Obviously, they're playing tonight. Don't know if they're playing with him because technically they're not, I think, allowed to make any changes
Well,
for.
they have subs. They have 2 subs. Each
Oh,
team
they have
has 2
subs. Yeah, you're
subs.
right.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they have. I could probably check real quickly, but I think they have
Yeah.
Maxim, who's their coach,
Sub, then, yeah.
and then Samish, sorry, who's their coach, and then
Yeah.
also they have Space LA, who's like a French player. It's kind of really unknown. So yeah, it might be him, but again, I think they're probably going to just swap a player on Hyper Games. Melo's probably going to join a Hyper Games team, then Hyper Games is probably going to do a straight swap. It makes them more logical sense.
Yeah, either way, they're gonna have to make a roster change eventually. I mean,
I'll buy a Rosetta Stone and learn French if it means I get like 10 followers. So like, you know,
I'll learn French.
if you're out the guitar, yeah, hit me up.
Jesus. Question coming in from Robbie, actually was on production, did a really good job over the weekend. Wants to know what should be done differently to ensure that the next AM2 Pro runs perfectly. Let's go with BeanBag first.
Well, I think the main issue again is probably the stream on the Saturday. Of course, on Sunday it was flawless and everything, but if you can have 2 days like it was on Sunday, so you can have flawless running through the whole event, it'll make the experience for the viewers at home that aren't at the actual venue a lot better to watch and a lot cleaner.
Is there anything from like a player's perspective that they could have done? Anything that you've maybe seen at other events that weren't at this event?
Well, there's this whole thing going around the whole weekend.
The cursed Xboxes.
This is going to come up eventually.
This is going to be fun.
There's been speculations thrown around about Xboxes being dubbed God Xboxes or God boxes.
They've been cursed.
It feels like online they just melt people. But I'm not too sure whether that's just in the head, whether it's actually true. But all I know is that the only team to win on the as called cursed side of main stage was Epsilon. So it could be something going on there.
I even spoke to Marky B about this because obviously I was interviewing the winning teams as they won on main stage, and every team, I kid you not, I don't think it. I think it may have just been by chance, or I don't know what it was, but every team was from, as you look at the stage, the left hand side, and then as you said rightfully, the only team to win on the other side was Epsilon in their winners final against yourselves. Yep. So, and even I think we had even like some of the Exertus general management and stuff going, oh, there's something wrong with it and so on. So, but honestly, like it may have just been chance.
Be something in the head. Like it could be after someone lost on that side and they say, because all it takes is like one person to say, oh, the Xboxes are so much better on the other side.
Then when the next team loses, they think that, and the next team and so on. Yeah, I mean, it could have just been pure coincidence. From our knowledge, from the actual technical guy, there was nothing wrong with that side, but I mean, I don't know if it's cursed. Then I really don't know. But anywho, RayQ wanted to actually ask, is there any roster changes that will happen to the top UK teams? Do we reckon?
Well, actually, there's been a couple of roster changes happen already. Teams that placed top 6, say this event, was it UFrag? I believe they split. So Twaze and one other. I think it was Twaze and Magic split with Fortune and Rampage, I believe. So obviously them two will be looking for other teams. And I believe Refuse Defrag left Refuse. I don't think they finished top 6. They finished top 12 or something. So I think that's the 2 ones that stand out to me the most. I don't think Infuse will make a switch despite their placement. I think they're all willing to learn off it and grind and then come back and place well again. Obviously Millennium have Mellows left, so that's another change. Other than that, I can't see any of the top 4 splitting. So Epsilon, ourselves, Exertus, and Barrage. I can't see any of them 14 splitting because, well, let's just say for Barrage, Hawley kind of dropped his whole 3 teammates after the first AM2 Pro, and then that didn't really work out for him. So I can't see him making the same mistake again. So I think the top 4 teams will stick. Obviously, UFrag will be looking for more players to make new teams, and Aware Maple has actually left to focus on real life a bit more than COD.
Okay, that's respected, yeah.
So Aware will need a player, of course. So that leaves a couple spots open in some top teams.
So I want to go back a little bit towards the upsets because we did obviously speak about Millennium getting top 24. We
Yeah.
also spoke about, I would say, Equinox, EQ coming into the event. I honestly had them being a top 6, top 8 team. They played very well throughout the European events like Anisend and so on and so forth. They finished top 12, and of course, Infused, what kind of been
They
overlooked,
got
they finished.
confused out, didn't they, into the loser
Yeah.
bracket?
Yeah, obviously Infused as well, top 16. So those three kind of big organizations in Europe, a lot of people consider them to be the top 6 like organizations in Europe. Three of them finished top 12 or higher. What's kind of your thoughts of that being like obviously having these good players who are kind of household names falling to people like yourself who are obviously kind of just
Yeah.
come through the roots in the sense of now you just all of a sudden got these placements. Do you kind of like the idea of you kind of being the new blood?
Well, obviously for me, it's a good thing as it
Mhm.
gives players like me and other teams like Barrage, etc., to like break through and make a name for yourselves, etc. I actually watched the EQ Infused game, especially last map. I watched that quite a lot, and EQ looked dominant against Infused in the S&D. So going into the next day, which was a Sunday, their first game, they had to play Barrage, and I thought that they had a very solid chance of taking it, especially if it went down to the S&D because I was watching them and they looked very dominant on it, but. I think Barrage just came out really hot, so that's how that upset happened. You know, they beat EQ. I think it was 2-0. I think it was a very convincing victory.
Yeah, it
And
was.
I was talking to Barrage after it. They felt really, really good after that. You know, it was probably one of their toughest challenges they'd have in their side of the bracket. And I don't know. I just feel like this game's a bit whoever turns up on the day kind of thing. Like it can be anyone's game, as you see, Vitality, Millennium, all of these top teams infused going out in these early stages. It's really about who turns up in a series, who plays well, and stuff like that. I think it's more about that than it has been in any other COD game before when I've watched it.
Right, okay, that's good stuff. And let's just kind of talk a little bit more. I want to kind of end the anti-pro discussion unless Tommy's got anything else, any more questions in the chat lurking around or not, because I'm going to kind of go otherwise
I'll have
into
a
the
little
G.
search while you talk.
Right, okay, we'll go into the Gfinity predictions because we kind of made a bit of a habit now because of the show being on a Wednesday. There's a Gfinity League, the Pro League's on a couple of hours after the show, so we kind of make a habit of doing predictions. So I've actually got the games down in front of me, so we're just going to list them off. There's only 4 games, so we might go into the championship and we might not. It depends how we run on time and depends if we rattle through it or not. We're just going to kind of just basically give you 2 names, the 2 organizations. I want to give you predictions. It's a best of 6 if you know how it works. So
Yep.
technically, you could have a 3-3 game.
I'm going to go 3-3 every game just to be impartial.
So that's the thing. So yeah, I'm just going to rattle out the names. The first game is VWS. Obviously, they played this weekend. I think they got top 12. Yeah,
Top 12, I believe.
top 12.
When
So
Rage's notes end.
no, exactly. It's like I think 100% sure he's finished the top 12. So VWS versus Epsilon, who obviously won the event. Predictions for that, Tommy, and then BeanBag.
So it's VWS versus Epsilon. Obviously, the biggest thing for me is there's no kind of team that has an advantage because obviously there's 6 maps. I think they also get to vote what maps they want to host as well. So obviously 3 maps hosted each. There's no real significant a host advantage or whatever because they obviously host the same amount. Epsilon have got to take it because they've just been dominant obviously since winning both Ego and obviously at the weekend just gone. Score, I'm going to give it probably 5-1 maybe. I've got VWS are going to take at least 1 map, I reckon. At least 1 map.
VWS and your predictions.
I agree with Tommy. I think Epsilon are going to take it after looking so dominant over the weekend. I can't really see them losing to a VWS team. And there has been rumours that VWS may make a change in the near future, but I'm not really too sure on that. But I think Epsilon are going to win it a solid 6-0, to be honest with you.
Okay, pretty confident. To win it. I'm going to have to jump in the same boat. I mean, it'd be pretty ludicrous for you to say that VWS are going to win it, especially given the fact I think Epsilon actually played VWS and won 2-0 at the actual event. So obviously, I'm sure that's going to be a factor in the back of their heads, knowing that they've already beat them before. Obviously, online is different to LAN because you have the whole connection and all that fun stuff. But I kind of never like to say 6-0 because I always expected. So I'm going to have to say 5-1. But again, Epsilon to take it, it's kind of a given. The next game is Millennium versus Gamers 2. Obviously, we already spoke about how Millennium might have a different roster because of the whole Mellow situation, whether Samish is going to be playing or whoever. What's your predictions of that, Tommy, and then BeanBag again?
So off the bat of Millennium's kind of recent crumbling, shall we say. I honestly feel like they're going to be a bit demoralized going into this match if they even play it. I mean, I honestly do not know, but if I spoke to Carnage on, I think it was like the Saturday, and he was talking about how he doesn't really care too much about the Pro League because obviously their main roster is with Carbon, and obviously he's not 18, so they're not able to play with him in the league. With that being said, I honestly feel like Gamers 2 will take it. I mean, if we remember last week, I think Infuse 6-0'd Millennium, and that's what I talked to Carnage about, and he's like, we honestly don't care as much about this because obviously, as I said, Carbon is not 18. So with that being said, Gamers 2 I think will take it. I'm going to say 5-1 again.
Right, okay.
I think I'm gonna have to agree with Tommy here. I mean, I'm not too familiar with the Gamers 2, but knowing that Millennium obviously had a bad placement and they can't use Carbon, and now Mello's gone too, it leaves maybe they might have to get a pickup or use one of their subs to play the game against G2. So I think G2 will take it, maybe a 4-2 or a 5-1, similar to Tommy, to be honest.
I'm going to see this as kind of the battle of the connection because it's French versus Spanish. Both teams kind of known for having a good host. Obviously, the whole thing with Millennium having a new roster is obviously going to factor into it. And if Tommy's what he said is true, the roster's going to not really be winning. So I'm going to say Gamers 2 actually go to. I think they're actually joint on points. They're both fourth. Sorry, they both got 4 points, so it's 6th and 7th in the league. So I'm just going to go straight down the middle, a free draw for those two teams. And the third and the penultimate game in the Premiership, what's going to be playing tonight, is Team Vitality versus Over Gaming Club. We'll switch up this time. We'll go BeanBag first, then Tommy second.
So I think Vitality are going to win it, despite having not the best performance at the weekend. I just think that they won't let it get to their head too much. You know, they've still got a Gfinity League to play well in. They've still got something to play for. Like, they can't dwell over the Amateur Pro performance, etc. So I think Vitality will take it. And are they using Tommy for that? I think they are.
I was just going to kind of ask that. I'm not 100% sure. I imagine they probably will. I think Tommy
I would have. I would have thought he'd be back by now.
Yeah,
I think really, yeah. I think really, if they're using Tommy, then I think they will take it. Maybe they might slip up on a map. Maybe the Amateur Pro might get to them a bit, but I think it's either going to be a 5-1 or a 6-0, to be honest.
I have to think similar things. Obviously, I think it's against Over, isn't it? If I'm right,
yeah.
Well, the Spanish team. I don't think it'll be. I think it'll. I don't know because. I think Vitality lost last week, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's all about the connection. Obviously, if it's against Over, you got to think they're hosting 3 maps on a Spanish connection. Now, that's a pretty significant factor if you've watched Over Gamers and Gamers 2 and so on and so forth play. I'm going to go 4-2 in favor of Vitality.
Right, okay. I think we're in a little bit of technical issues, so I don't know if you can actually hear me. Can you?
You're good now. You just cut
out for a bit. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Over Gaming, actually, I don't think they've won. Let me just quickly check the league.
I have faith.
We've played 4, they've lost 3 and drawn 1, so that's basically
they're drawing this one.
My record's better than that, so so I'm gonna have to say a 6-0 to Vitality. Obviously, Vitality are top. They've only lost 1 game, so chances are they're gonna win this game. I'm gonna say 6-0 quite convincingly. Obviously, you already mentioned about the host, so we might get a fluky Search and Destroy or a fluky hardpoint on Spanish host. But the last game is Hyper Games versus Infuse in the Pro League. So Tommy and then BeanBag, and then I'll go for my predictions. Go.
Ooh, that's tricky because obviously Hyper Games won at Am2 Pro, one of the few teams that weren't that are in the Pro League. Infuse were, but didn't have the greatest performance. Speaking of Quicker, he's a bit disappointed, did not expect it, not really surprised about that. Various things went wrong, but it is what it is. They got to move on. It's tricky. I'm gonna go. I don't know because they 6-0'd Millennium last week, but it's against Hyper Games, French host. I'm gonna go 4-2 in favor of Hyper Games.
Right. Okay, BeanBag.
Well, obviously, having spoken to Quicker, Brandon, or LXT, and I think the whole Infused team, in fact, bar Melon, after their performance, they seemed like they wanted to bounce back quite quickly. They seemed like And of course, they tweeted it out after the event, like they're just going to focus on the league, focus on doing well from there, and put the Antro behind them. So I think I've got faith in the Infused team. I think obviously the host will become a factor. A lot of people, a lot of UK people, especially, don't like playing on foreign hosts. They don't like playing on French, Spanish, etc. hosts. So that might play into Hypergame's hands a bit. But I think Infuse will win it 4-2 or 5-1.
Right. Okay. One thing I actually want to talk about is the Hyper Games thing. Is the fact that I'm sure a lot of people at Hyper Games are going to be a little bit tentative about their spot, especially if you know you're not going to perform very well in the league. You might be thinking their spot's on the line because of Melo becoming a free agent. Again, I don't know whether they've actually already announced where Melo's going or not. So if I'm a Hyper Games player, I know Melo has just been dropped and I've got to play in a pro league. I'll be pretty nervous that I don't drop. Like, I don't even go negative. I want to be dropping pro numbers. I want to, be becoming best friends with my teammates to ensure that I'm not getting dropped. So
The real MVP.
I feel as if exactly. I feel as if that's probably going to be a factor in the back of their heads, and it's probably going to hinder them more than obviously if they're playing as if they know they might get dropped. It's obviously going to affect them negatively. So I feel as if Infused, as BeanBag already said, like he spoke to the players, they seem pretty eager to get back at it. So I feel as if Infused are probably going to win this game 4-2. And that's actually wrap up for the predictions in the Premiership. I'm not going to go into the Championship because there's a lot of confusion, and I believe Tommy, you've got a couple of questions from the actual chat. So if you have any more questions you want to ask either me, Tommy, or Beanbag, or all three of us, leave them in the chat, and then if there's no more questions, we'll end the show from there.
I got one from, I think it was Diesel G, wants to know, this is probably going to go straight to Beanbag because he'll be able to give you the best answer to this question. Wants to know, what tips would you give to first-time LAN newbies?
Well, obviously, I haven't actually been to that many LANs, so I know how it feels to turn up to your first LAN.
Fresh blood.
Yeah, I think the first step is to obviously make a team that you're comfortable with, that you're all friendly with each other, that there's no snaky business, there's no argument. You don't want to be arguing mid-game with your teammates online. You want to sort out what you're doing wrong online, and then get it all fixed up, get the strategies for S&D and etc. on point for the LAN event. And when you get to the LAN, you want to try. Obviously, you're going to be nervous first LAN, but you want to kind of get your nerves out of your system with the first game. So, in my opinion, the first game is always the most important at a LAN. You want to start off that hard point with a good victory. You want to play well personally, and that will give you kind of the confidence to build upon for the rest of the series, and then hopefully you'll take that series, and then it goes on from there. Really, that's what I did for my first Anti-Pro event. We took first map quite convincingly, then we kind of built upon that, and then we managed to cause some upsets, and that really gives you some good confidence to take the rest of the event with. So I think first game, have to do well. Well, don't have to, but very important. If you do well, it will help you a lot throughout the whole LAN.
Awesome. Just kind of touching on that, in terms of your philosophy, what do you kind of believe in? Because obviously with this, the scene we've got, there's a lot of kind of roster changes, people playing with one team for 1 week and then another. Do you believe in kind of sticking with a team or trying to make things work, or is it better for you just to kind of try and jump to another roster or find a new team or pick up someone else?
Well, this is actually a thing that I've discussed with a lot of people quite a lot of the time, and I personally believe that I think it's better for a team to stick, even if you're going for a rough patch online. It's only online, it's going to get better at some point. It can't be always bad. We had it with when I was formerly on Orbit with my team. We were not very good online at all, but we were determined to stick and see if we could sort things out. We stuck for about 3-4 weeks trying to sort things out, and eventually got to the point where it was just we knew nothing was going to work. So I think you should at least give it at very, very least 3 weeks ish, maybe a lot more. But
at least try to work things out. If you know at least it's working.
Yeah, and while you're playing, also an important thing is to try and figure out what you and your teammates are doing wrong while you're playing, but discuss it after the game, not in game, because it can cause arguments. So I think
we've seen that too many times on stream. Yeah, awesome stuff. Okay, next question is actually going to be to both of you, or actually all three of us. Do these EU teams have a chance against NA teams? Let's go to Rage first, followed by BeanBag.
Oh, I knew this is going to have to come up. I didn't want to bring this up because I want to talk about the age difference. I don't want to talk about the age difference because I want to wrap up the show, but I know I'm going to get really vocal again, and BeanBag's probably one of the best guests to do it. Obviously, I'm sure the age difference is always a thing, the fact that the whole Gfinity League and so on and so forth and the events. I'm sure BeanBag isn't very happy about that, obviously being someone who's under the age of 18. But yeah, when you got people like BeanBag, when you got people, especially like the Exertus team, who have kind of been towards the top, towards pretty much all of Advanced Warfare, the fact that they're not getting the chances that go into what's considered to be the big the big European events, like for example G20, it's always going to kind of hinder them and hinder the growth from those players. And of course, it means that the players who are 18 and over are going to get more experience. You're going to kind of get the preferred treatment, and obviously, it's going to kind of just shoot the growth of UK esports in the foot. For the time being, obviously, G20 are obviously promising bigger, better things in the future, so only time can tell about that. But yeah, at the minute, the Pro League's obviously helping when you've got the teams playing against the best teams in Europe the entire time on a weekly basis. That's obviously always going to make it better because you're only as good as the people who you play. So, it's getting there slowly, but at the minute, I don't really say there's one European team what's a complete god squad, could come over to America and just like win every single event, because that's not true.
Yeah, I agree with Rage here, to be honest. I mean, I think the last event where American and EU teams were mixed, TCM was obviously our best European team at the time. They had gone to America, they're playing in the Pro League for a bit, and they still did not really perform anywhere near the standards that American teams are performing at. So with obviously the age thing going on in the EU as well, it does hinder players like myself that are under 18 a bit, but obviously we just got to put up with it. We've got to wait until Gfinity maybe expand to under 18s, but for the over 18s, for I think our best hopes, Epsilon, Vitality, and obviously TCM picking up two American players now, that will help them, and obviously there's some EU players there, so I think hopefully we just got to pin our hopes on TCM doing well, and then that will kind of bring more EU players into spotlight in America. Then maybe American teams will start taking EU teams more seriously. But right now, there's not really a full four-man EU team that I can see taking on the likes of, I don't know, Optic, FaZe, Denial, them kind of teams right now. But maybe in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a truly honest representation of how the scene is at the moment. We all know that North American teams predominantly do the best for the reason that they are the best. And I mean, it really sucks that obviously TCM got rid of half their British team and replaced it with a half American team, but it is what it is. They're obviously fighting to survive in the Pro League, and hopefully that can aspire to more players going over or seeing the success the likes of Jerd and Moose and Swanee are going to have. But yeah, in terms of the teams, definitely don't think that any team can really match up to the top tier teams in North America. But with that being said, teams like yourself, Barrage, and so on and so forth are doing a really awesome job in bringing up the next kind of wave of talent, because I think what we struggled with is the fact that for a while we were kind of not really in a bad way, but stuck with the same people at the top of the game. And obviously with that happening, we didn't have any new talent coming in and making the overall bracket of top tier players bigger. But I think with the events like Am2 Pro and the Pro League and all the divisions below it, I think that hopefully that should change, and as we go forward we should see ample amount of more players joining into the Call of Duty competitive scene.
Right, okay, Tommy, any more questions, or is that about it?
Let me have a look. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, sums up everything.
Okay, we'll pretty much leave it there then, because I'm sure everyone's got places to be, especially BeanBag. I'm sure, he's going to carry on with the momentum and try to win some more games. So, BeanBag, the way we usually end the show is we kind of give you a minute, 2 minutes. You can have 5 minutes, you can have 10 minutes if you really want, but please don't, because you'll bore us. But, just any final, shout outs, any final thank yous and so on and so forth. Now's your time to do them. So off you go.
Obviously, biggest shout out goes to my teammates who Revolt, Insight, Detain, Rift _, followed by their gamer tag is their at. So yeah, go follow them and us and me, because that's our squad. Rift HQ is the at of my org. They sent us out to Am2 Pro. They got us there in the first place. So big thank you to them, and then obviously all the sponsors that sponsor Rift. Big shout out to them, and shout out to you guys for having me on the show. It was a pleasure to be here.
Right, okay. Tommy, any final closing words?
Yeah, just a massive thank you to BeanBag for coming on. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on and speak to us about your experience. Well done placing top 3 at Am2 Pro. Obviously, as I just talked about, you are kind of the up-and-coming breed of Call of Duty players, so hopefully we'll get a lot more players like yourselves appearing in and around the scene and placing as well as you did. I've been Tommy. Thank you across the weekend, everyone I met. Nice seeing you all for the first time, really. Hope to see you all in future lands and so on and so forth. And we'll see, as always, next week with another guest at another time.
Right, okay. I don't know where to go from there. Obviously, guys, as per usual, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for staying here. It gets it's long at times, so thank you for sticking through. Obviously, thanks for BeanBag coming on. It's been a great guest. And codes, as per usual, down below. Check them out. 5% off with the code STiKS for your Scuff controller. So if you want to use one of them, might as well get a discount with them. Same as G4 as well. 10% off with the code STiKS. I've been Alex, and we'll see you next week. Bye.